Ashley Clark, thanks so much for taking some time out today to talk about your new role and Opera in the Park.
Thank you. It's a real honor to be here. Thank you so
Now,
much.
this is a really unique organization
Mhm.
that's been around in Portland for a little while, but for folks who are not familiar with it, can you explain what the mission of Opera in the Park is and what it means to have its very first executive director?
Sure. Opera in the Park was founded in 2003 with one simple but very powerful idea to bring high quality opera to the public for free in a welcoming outdoor setting. So we provide opera that is concert opera. It's unstaged, so there are no costumes, but it has a full orchestra. It has a full chorus, so 40 people, and um, soloists from all over the world, really nationwide, and we have some from out of the country, and provide a beautiful opera concert for the public in public parks.
You know,
It
you
was
mentioned soloists. I just have to mention, you guys have brought some real stars over the years to Portland for this.
Yes. And this year we've had Angela Mead, we've had Angela Brown, we've had Alan Glassman, and all of them have come back repeatedly. So not just one time, they come back and they become friends. It's wonderful. This year we have the amazing powerhouse Sandra Peak Eddy,
Mm.
and we are very excited to welcome her back to Portland.
That's very cool. Okay, we're going to talk about this production coming up in a little while, but I do want to ask, you are the first executive director, 22 years this has been going on. What does it mean for this organization to have its first, person at the helm?
Yeah, it's a really important moment for Opera in the Park Portland. Having the first executive director means we're stepping into a very new phase, one that's focused on growth, on long term stability, and deepening our impact, and really making it so that we have a very solid foundation. Like you said, for 22 years, the organization was run just by a very small group of volunteers on the board of directors. They created this whole thing. They worked year round to raise 80,000, nearly $100,000 this year to give this gift to the city. So my job now that the organization has grown, and last year we welcomed 5,000 people to the park, to Peninsula Park for La Traviata. Now that we've grown so much, my job is to build the support structure behind the scenes, the fundraising, work on the strategic planning, build more community partnerships, which we know are so important, so that the artistic side has what it needs to flourish and reach more people. And the board of trustees, the board of directors can focus more on working through all the things that do come up over time. And it's happening at a time when, as you know, many arts organizations are facing serious funding cuts.
Sure.
Yeah, so free, accessible programs like ours are especially vulnerable, even though they're some of the most impactful. Like I said, 5,000 people came to our concert last year, which is far more than can fit in any of our city's concert halls.
Yeah.
So for us, it's having an executive director isn't necessarily about growing, but about protecting what they've already built and making
Mm.
sure that it lasts through, especially through times like these. We're taking something really special and giving it the foundation that it needs to survive and continue on.
Can you tell me a little bit about your background? I know you have a very personal tie to Opera in the Park, but can you tell us about that and your overall background?
Yeah, so I grew up in a very musical household. My name is Ashley Clark. My father is Keith Clark. He was one of the founders of Opera in the Park, Portland, along with the Astoria Music Festival and some other places. Um, and he has been the artistic director until this year. Now we have Nicholas Fox as interim artistic director for this year, and we'll see what we do next year. And he and I'll talk a little bit about our relationship and how this has worked out, and then I'll give a little bit about my background. My father and I have worked closely together for a long time, but our roles are very distinct. So he's always had the artistic vision. And I focus on fundraising and building this long term stability for organizations and making music accessible. So, this idea that we can make music for the public and free and have it accessible to people who might not otherwise have access to it has always been a core family value. I have this one favorite memory that I really want to share. It's from middle school when we were living in Minnesota. My father was at the University of Minnesota teaching, and he took opera students there to straight onto farms. And I came along as a middle school student. I played my violin in the back of the second violins.
Oh,
But
wow.
what we did before is we used all of the equipment on the farms, like the tractors, hay bales, whatever we could, to build the stages. And we performed for farmers in rural Minnesota who had never seen opera before. And it was just it's such an experience, it's such a strong memory and such a experience for me to be able to see how people like can access music and how profoundly they can be moved by opera without having any prior relationship to it. So that spirit of bringing world-class music, because these were some great musicians at the university, directly into people's backyards shaped me. And
That's
so
amazing.
this role feels like a natural continuation of that mission, and also shows how we can work together to create something um, for everybody.
That's really cool. Now, you mentioned talking a little bit about your professional background. I love that story. Can you talk a little bit about, you've worked in administration for quite a long time, but you've just recently moved to Portland in 2021, I believe?
Yes, I did move in 2021, and I have worked in arts administration since college. But I have kind of a variegated background. I've taken multiple paths. One is in arts administration, and one is in education,
Mm.
and kind of following my own intellectual pursuits. But I've done them simultaneously, and they have worked together really well. And I think they kind of culminate in this idea of making opera accessible. So I began my arts administration career as a college student at UC Berkeley. I
Mm.
worked in development at Cal Performances, which is the performing arts center that is on the campus. But it's a real national hub for just fantastic um, performances on the stage of all kinds. And I also served as the student liaison for the San Francisco Symphony. So trying to get students to come to the symphony with their like free or less expensive tickets. From there, I moved into development roles at the LA Philharmonic. And then I dipped my toes into the visual arts,
Mm.
working at DeRosa Center for Contemporary Art in Napa. But then I left DeRosa to pursue graduate studies in Chicago, where I stayed for about 10 years. And I had the privilege of teaching at the University of Chicago and creating courses that were really rooted in the many intersections of science and art. This was
Mm.
my personal interest, and I loved sharing it with students. I still love to talk about it. My personal research was on German theater, and mostly in the 18th, 19th century. I looked at how Goethe, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, and Schiller helped create kind of a new modern German theater in Weimar.
Mhm.
Um, and one of the most fun experiences doing my research in Weimar was reading Goethe's the sequel to the Magic Flute. So he wrote a sequel to the Magic Flute, which is just fantastic and fun. And seeing how science and art kind of played out during that, it's an overlooked but fun fragment.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you alluded to this earlier, but I'm going to mention nonprofit organizations, nonprofit arts organizations especially, are facing some real challenges right now, and Opera in the Park is no exception. Can you briefly address some of the challenges you all are going through right now and how you're managing?
Yes, thank you. Everyone is facing these challenges, and we are no exception, especially um, being a free, accessible program. We're quite vulnerable, even though we are some of the most impactful, like I said. Um, but the real challenge that we have had is, like many others, the loss of expected funding.
Mm.
So my role, what's really important for my role right now is diversifying our income streams
Yes.
because we have very little overhead, right? We don't have a building. We perform in the park. Um, so all of the money that we raise really goes into the art. Um, but we really need to diversify the way in which we're getting those monies. Without that money, without ticket sales, it's quite hard. We're really reliant on fundraising. Um, and this year marks a really big shift in another way. It's the first time in 22 years that we're producing without Portland Parks and Recreation as our host due to
Oh,
their own budget constraints. So because Parks and Rec have had to face these very large budget cuts of their own, they were no longer able to host us.
huh.
But we're moving forward. We increased our budget by about 25%.
Wow.
We built new community partnerships. We've done everything we can to keep this alive. And yeah, when I say we, it really isn't me because I am new, but it's a group of about 6 women on the board who take responsibility for the financial health. They've taken responsibility for the programming and producing this really as a civic gift. And these are truly amazing women who volunteer so much of their time and resources to give this gift. So while we're facing the challenges that everyone else is facing, we're also coming together stronger as a group and a community to still be able to maintain the same quality that we've been able to offer in years past.
Amazing. Well, speaking of quality too, this is going to be an amazing production this year. Carmen, can you talk a little bit about what's in store?
Yes, we're really excited to present Carmen. So it's the 150th anniversary of Bizet's Carmen. We will be presenting it again at Peninsula Park this year on Saturday, July 27th, Sunday, July 27th in Peninsula Park. It's, as you know, one of opera's most iconic and electrifying works, full of unforgettable music, of big emotions, drama that still resonates today. And like I said, our performances are concert style. So while we don't have full costumes or sets, we will have the full orchestra, the full chorus who perform in the gazebo. It's really beautiful. We build the stage right outside the gazebo, and outstanding soloists like Sandra Peak Eddy. So Miss Eddy came to Portland in, I believe 2015 to star in this role, to star as Carmen for Portland Opera. But this time you get to see her free in one of our most beautiful parks, which we're very excited about.
Very cool.
To
Amazing.
add one extra special element, for the first time, we've partnered with Espacio Flamenco to bring flamenco dancers. So you will have also a very beautiful visual taste of Carmen on the stage and during intermission.
Oh, that's so exciting. Very fun. And what's the date this year?
It is July 27th.
Okay, July 27th.
Yes.
Well, Ashley Clark, thank you so much for your time today. We are all looking forward to this year's production of Carmen at Opera in the Park, and you can learn more on your website. And can you give us that address?
Yes, it's operaintheparkportland.org.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.